Can a kid listen to you and follow a direction if he's also listening to the air conditioner click on and off? Can he process a word problem if he's so focused on the feeling of his socks being too tight and having a seam above his toes? If by the end of this video you start to wonder if some of the behaviors that you're seeing in your children are significantly affecting how they are functioning in the world, I would highly recommend you find an occupational therapist in your area. OTs, occupational therapists, they are trained in understanding how the sensory systems integrate and how kids modulate them, and they are your go-to. That's their jam. Hi, I'm BRIGID SHAMBURG, speech-language pathologist and owner of One of a Kind Children's Therapy. And right now we are going to delve into the sensory system because, as hopefully you will begin to understand as we go through this, learning, playing, and engaging does not happen easily in a body that's dysregulated. Subscribe to our channel to get notified about the new videos when we post them. Spoiler alert, the next ones are about engagement and play. So, how do we as humans take in information from the world, from our environment? How do we learn? Through our senses. The information comes through our central nervous system, through our senses, and the central nervous system helps us regulate these so that we can be calm, ready, alert. So in order to know what to listen for and what to watch for, we have to know the types of senses that we have. I can see you ticking them off on your fingers right now. Then we have to figure out, how does the children's central nervous system integrate? How does it put together those senses to regulate the child? Finally, we're going to use all that information to figure out how to better engage with your kid. Okay, so the 5 senses that we all know, the tangible senses, right? I often use potato head to teach this because each sense is correlated with a body part, right? So we have our vision with our eyes. We have our hearing with our ears. We have our taste or our gustatory with our tongue and our mouth. We have touch and feel with our hands and the organ of skin that we have on our body. And then we have our nose. And I'll give you a little song that I like to sing with the potato head when I do this. Potato head has one nose, one nose, one nose. Potato head has one nose so that he can. You got it. But there are 3 senses that we cannot link to a concrete body part. Proprioception. Proprioception. Where is our body in space? That's when we move our joints and our muscles, and then we jump, and it sends the messages to our joints and our muscles, and then we understand where we are. We have a body awareness in relation to the floor, in relation to here, in relation to our other body parts. The vestibular system. This is our balance and movement system. It's where we are when gravity pushes us down. The vestibular system is highly sensitive to things like spinning and swinging. And we have to be really careful about the vestibular system because it can last, when you put input into this system, it can last for 4 to 8 hours after. And if you've ever felt dizzy or nauseous after swinging or spinning, that's your vestibular system. The 8th sense we're going to talk about is interoception. A lot of people don't know about this one, but this is huge for our kids who have difficulties with processing sensory input because this is internal. So this is hunger, thirst. This is when I'm a mile from the gas station and I just keep telling myself I can make it that 1 mile before I have to be. But when you have kids who have communication difficulties, they can't tell you that. And so we see this manifest in lots of different ways, and it usually is looked at as a behavior disorder. So now we talk about the different ways that the children's central nervous systems are integrating all of this input that they're getting. What do we want? What's ideal? Ideal is calm, organized, ready state. That's how we learn. And that is how we get the kids to engage with us when they're in that state. But that doesn't often happen. What do we see most of the time? Because we're watching and listening, remember? We see over-responsiveness. I always remember the going on a bear hunt. Can't go over it, can't go under it. So we've got our over-responsive kids, and we often use an analogy like a little tiny espresso cup, and you've got your huge carafe of coffee, and you pour that whole coffee into this little tiny espresso cup, and it's just overflowing. It's too much, too fast. They can't regulate, and we see big, big reactions. Or we've got an under-responsive reaction. This would be the analogy of those huge, cool latte cups, and you're drip, drip, drip. It's never going to fill up. So you've got kids who are either constantly seeking sensation, or they are very under-responsive in that it takes a long time to process. Finally, you can use all this information when you're watching your child and try to figure out, where is my kid in all of this? What do you see? Do you see something that you would consider an overreaction to stimuli? So things like sound, when there's a siren going by, or the loud toilet flushing at the zoo. Is there avoidance of those things? Are there loud vocalizations in response to those things? What about visual, with the flashing lights, or even just fluorescent lights with that kind of flicker that they have? Do you also find avoidance of that? Where they turn their heads, will they hide? What about movement? Do they scream, or do they get upset if, like when we were on the swing just a second ago, if their feet come off the ground to get on the swing, does that jolt them? Are they upset by that? What about when daddy wants to flip them over and play upside down rocket ship? Is that something they enjoy, or is that something that really sets them off? They're overreactive to that. What about messy textures, glue, messy food, tags on their collars? Are they overreactive to those things? Or do you see the kids who are under-responsive to sensation, where you notice that they're crashing into things, they're bumping into people, objects? I'll often hear parents say, be aware, look where you're going. Or the kids who will line up their trains or their cars so that they can see exactly where those go. I've had a lot of kids that put books on shelves in very specific orders because that's a visual input that they're looking for. Or what about excessive humming, vocalizing, clicks, echolalia, which we'll get into in a later video, but there's this type of echolalia that's not communicative, and kids will just kind of repeat over and over again, you're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome. And that's kind of an auditory stimulation for them because they're seeking that out. Or you've got the under-responsive kids who are just kind of in their own world. They're still inside there. They're still trying to process those sensory pieces, and that we have to help with that co-regulation of that. Many of these reactions to sensory stimuli are pretty typical. All of us have sensory differences. After I had my 3 boys, my sense of smell is so overreactive that if someone comes in with a strong cologne or skunks or my boy's smelly feet, I have to really focus on what I'm doing. I can get highly distracted by that. It becomes a problem when these differences inhibit our function in our daily life, in our role in our daily life, which for kids is learning and developing through engaging and play. For example, if my child is so visually understimulated that he's so focused on watching the wheels spin that he's not engaging with me, that's interfering with his development. Or a little girl who's trying to regulate by running around the room, and when I call to her, she doesn't respond, that's interfering with her development. Once you start to figure out some of these sensory challenges, whether they're seeking or avoiding, then we can start using these strategies to really engage them, which is what we're going to talk about in the next video. I know that was a lot, but it is so important to understand that a child cannot truly learn and engage until she is regulated and ready. And then we engage. So please comment below and let us know how your child reacts to certain stimuli, or what you even see in yourself, because you as the parents and caregivers teach me as much as I teach you.